Okay, hello everybody. How you guys doing? My name is Mark. This is Why I Hate the World. We have a lot of stuff to talk about this week. But before we jump into everything that we're going to talk about with the midterms and stuff like that, let's take a look at what we're working on. We're still coloring our little witch sketch, which, I think is turning out pretty good. I think I might actually put like a background behind this, like maybe make her inside of a witch's hut or like a laboratory or something. So anyway, guys, let's jump right on into it. We just had some midterms here in the United States. For those of you who live outside the country, we have elections every 2 years, presidential elections every 4 years, and then the in between is called the midterms. That's when we elect mainly senators and governors and stuff like that. And usually what happens is that the party that does not hold the White House tends to do really bad historically in these midterm elections. And that didn't happen this time, you know. We were expecting there to be what they would call a red wave. They always say that whenever they're expecting one political party to just dominate, they call it a wave. Red wave and a blue wave, etc., etc. And there was a lot of hype coming out of the Republicans and the GOP and stuff like that, and the conservatives saying we're going to crush them this midterm. There's going to be a red wave. It's going to wash over everything. And red wave turned out to more be like a red dribble. You know, sort of like a little baby dribbling, and you have to like wipe its chin at dinner. That's kind of what the red wave turned out to be. um, our good friend Ben Shapiro compared it to the red wedding from Game of Thrones, which I gotta admit that's actually kind of witty. I wish I would have come up with that myself. I guess that's what they pay Ben Shapiro the big bucks for, huh? But anyway, at least he's being honest about it because, yeah, the Republicans definitely did not do well. And when I say that, it's not that they didn't win anything, because they did, right? They may even end up taking control of the House and the Senate, which would suck. But kind of, let's admit it, that's kind of what we were expecting to happen anyway, right? But usually in these midterm elections, that happens at a much much wider margin. Like this time, there's actually a really good chance that the Democrats may control either the House or the Senate, or possibly both, and that if the Republicans manage to take one of these, they'll have an extremely thin margin, right? The prediction is that they may take the House by one vote, right? About one vote, like one seat. And then if they take the Senate, it'll be by one seat. And that's a lot different than, because in past elections it would be like, oh, they've won the House by 60 seats or something like that, or they've got, a 55 to 45 majority in the Senate, and it's like not even close this time, right? Now it's not so much that they lost hard; it's that the Democrats overperformed. And when they say overperformed, they mean, according to the polls, the Democrats overperformed. So you have polling, and stuff before the election, and then you can basically make a pretty good prediction based on what those polls are. Polling is kind of a science at this point, you know. And these people, I mean, they spend lots and lots of money, right? Like trying to get that down, and so you can pretty much most of the time rely on what the polls actually say. And this time the polls were way the hell off. And where is my brush? I need the brush window. There it is. Okay. Oh, why the hell is it down there? I don't know. Shouldn't be like that. But anyway. Ah, crap. Edit. Step backwards. Okay. It's so nice when you actually know where stuff is and you know, like, how to do things, you know. Anyway, so, yeah, Democrats overperformed. And they did better than what the polls predicted they would do. Pretty much everywhere in the country except for Florida. In Florida, there was a red wave. In Florida, the Republicans pretty much crushed it. But that's really the only place in the country, it seems, where they managed to pull off massive wins that everybody predicted they would. You know, like everywhere else, they either lost or the elections were extremely close, and in many places, it's still being determined. You know, like in, for example, Georgia. You know, like it's Georgia's going to a runoff between Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker, which is Herschel Walker is sort of like the worst candidate of all time, which is still kind of disturbing to see that a good nearly half of the electorate still voted for this fucking moron. Right, but still, it's extremely close. As of last night, I checked, and it was 49.4% for Raphael Warnock, 48.3% for Herschel Walker. What in real votes that translates to about a difference of around 40,000 votes. And the reason why it's going to a runoff, because you would think, oh, well, the Democrat got more, right? So he should win the election. Well, according to Georgia law, if a candidate does not capture 50%, then there has to be a runoff election, which is like, well, that's the law. So what are you going to do, right? But still, it's sort of like it wasn't that long ago that Georgia was solid red, you know, and now it's consistently been blue the last two elections. I mean, right, this time as well, and it's like there's a pretty good chance that I mean, Herschel Walker could still take it in the runoff. But once again, it's like the same thing happened in 2020. We had this runoff election between the Senate candidates, and it ended up going to the Democrats. There's a very good chance that could still happen again today. And if that happens, then it looks like Democrats retain the Senate, which is kind of something that very rarely happens in these midterm elections. That'd be really nice if they did. Some other profile races in Pennsylvania. We had a Senate race between Dr. Oz, what's his name, Mehmet Oz, and then also John Fetterman. And it looks like Fetterman has secured the win there. He has pretty much stomped Dr. Oz by how much did he win by? He won by like 300,000 votes. So Dr. Oz is out of there, right? And that's good news because, Dr. Oz is a fucking scumbag, right? Who's basically only doing this to enrich himself. And it's like, we don't need more people like him in the fucking Senate. So thank God that he's gone, That was a very high profile race with lots of news coverage and stuff like that. So good example. In Arizona, it's looking like Katie Hobbs is going to secure this one in Arizona. And so I did, my last stream last week talked a little bit about Carrie Lake, the Republican running for governor in Arizona, and how she's Trump in a skirt is what she is. She's using the Trump playbook, all the way, the bombacity, the insulting the media, the, being saying like incredibly hateful and insightful things in order to get media attention, shit like that. Whether she actually believes it or not, I don't know. I think it's more disturbing if she didn't actually like believe the shit she was saying and she was just using it to get elected. I think that's worse in many respects than being a dyed in the wool like fascist, like she's at least coming off as. She's coming off as a dyed in as a straight up fucking Trump style fascist. So whether she's actually legit or not, I think is kind of irrelevant. I think we should believe people when they tell us that they're fascists, right? Looking like she's gonna lose. Excuse me. Sorry. drinking root beer here. Looking like she's gonna lose. Looking like Carrie Lake is down. She's down as of last night by 40,000 votes, roughly, which was let's see, 50.7 to 49.3. Katie Hobbs is gonna win it, so good. That's another high-profile Trump Republican that bit the dust. Um, Carrie Lake, for her part, most part, has not conceded, and they're still counting votes there, but not looking like she's gonna get the votes. I don't know. I mean, there is a small chance that she could win, so I don't want to say anything, but you got something like 97% of the precincts counted already. Doesn't look like there's much hope for Carrie Lake there. So that's good. We have in Nevada Senate Adam. There has been some wins by the Republicans. So you had Adam Laxalt, and he won in Arizona, but by a very slim margin. He won by around 1,100 votes. Some other news that I didn't think was going to happen. Lauren Boebert almost lost as well. As of this morning, she was still ahead. In fact, you know what? Let me check and see if there's any change, because that would be like really awesome if Lauren Boebert lost. Wouldn't that be like really, really great? Let's see. As of this morning, nope, she's still ahead. She is ahead by roughly 1,058 votes, which is it about 100,000? Wait. Not even that. No, what's 2040 minus 918 is what? What is that? 912 votes is what she's ahead by. I think roughly right around there. This is round that off to 1,000 with 99% reporting, so it's looking like she might win, but there is a very slim chance that Lauren Boebert might lose it. That would be kind of awesome. And I think Lauren Boebert's race it's extremely close, right? Lewis the Hedgehog, hey, how you doing? Can't stay for long, but we did we actually maintain a majority? Well, that's out to be determined. That's it's to be. There's still some races in being counted. So, for example, if Lauren Boebert loses, that'd be great. If I think the Senate is going to come down to, like I said, the governor the Georgia runoff that's going to happen in December between Warnock and Herschel Walker. So that's going to determine that. It is looking like the Republicans may win the House, right? But as of this morning, a lot of those races have not been finished yet at all. The Democrats lost about 7 seats so far in the House, so we'll see. But there's a chance. There's a chance that they may only take it by 1 seat. The Republicans may take it by 1 seat, which severely limits their ability to get anything done, because that means that, during any legislation or negotiations for anything, like, all the Democrats would have to do is convince one Republican to break ranks, right? And then stuff doesn't happen. So we'll see. It's better to have a 1-seat majority for them than for them to have like a 60-seat majority. You know what I mean? Because that will prevent them from running rampshot all over the Democrats and doing shit like fucking trying to impeach the President Biden for fucking falling off a bike and shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, it may curb some of the excess ridiculous fascist tendencies coming from the right. But I don't know. But it is looking like they may actually still take at least the House. But the Senate, I don't know. Senate, I think, is up for grabs, and I think there's a really good chance that they don't get the Senate, and that will just fuck up their, like, if that's the case, that screws up their entire, like, agenda. And at the worst thing that would happen is that we just go back to the usual kind of gridlock that we have in politics. That we just won't get any budgets or anything passed for 2 years. But then that also prevents like the Republicans from like like the main thing I think is the Senate. You don't want them to have the Senate because then they can choose judges, right? And you know, if they grab the Senate, then that means no judges get confirmed like at all. They can just stop all the judges from being confirmed. Like, and that's kind of what they did during the Obama years. They had the Senate for all that time. They didn't confirm any judges, and then as soon as like Trump came along, then they just started fucking saying yes to everybody, and that's how we got judges like federal judges that had like never tried a case and shit like that. You know, who became federal judges for life. Right, all of these like fucking conservative crony judges that Trump is trying to use in order to get out of legal trouble, like that's where all these people came from. So anyway, um more good news is that my state just legalized weed. Hey, right on. Well, congrats. This is sort of the golden age of legalization. I'm just a little. Well, actually, I don't know. I was about to say I'm sorry that it happened so late. I wish it would have happened 20 years ago. But then again, if weed would have been legalized 20 years ago when I was like an active smoker, like I don't know what direction my life would have gone in. You know what I'm saying? Like, I might be like a fucking wake and bake, like, coconut falling around the fucking Grateful Dead and shit, like, at this point in my life. So, kind of glad that it wasn't legal, but, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I have, like, more weed now in my fucking freezer. I just got it, like, I mean, I like the option that if I want to, I can go smoke it and not go to jail. That's awesome. So, I don't smoke so much anymore personally. But still, people shouldn't be going to jail for that kind of thing. It's like, no, man, we should be a civilized nation and not throw people in jail for imbibing a substance. What kind of bullshit is that? Anyway, getting back to the material here, though. So the thing about Lauren Boebert's election, right, is that I think it's a good barometer of what's going on with the midterms here, because she had pretty much every advantage that you could want, and she still didn't do too well, right? So she is in a district that is like a +8 Republican district, right? She was favored to win this election by 15 points. So her district was not one that they thought was up for play, was up for grabs, because they would have spent more money there if they thought they could unseat her. And because of the way that the district's drawn and shit like that, they didn't try. And the fact that this guy, and here's the thing, right? Can you name the person that Lauren Boebert ran against without looking it up? Like, I can't. He's a nobody, right? He's just some dude that they got. He's just a guy, and he managed to give her I think his name is Frisch or something like that, right? And he managed to give her like a serious run for her money without any support, without any like, media coverage. There's a reason why we've been hearing the names like, Raphael Warnock and John Fetterman and stuff like that. There's a reason why we've been hearing their names so much in the media through this whole election, is because the Democrats are spending money there in Pennsylvania and in Georgia because they think they can win. And part of that is you get your guy in the news, you get him some national name recognition, right? Because then people hear about him, and the more, it's sort of like advertising for a movie. The more you hear the name of your candidate, the more likely people will vote for that candidate. That's just how it is. The same way that, like advertising for movies is one of the few, like, few areas of advertising that's actually been proven to work. Like the more money you spend on advertising a movie, the more money it makes at the box office, and that's just a fact. Same kind of thing happens for elections. The more name recognition your candidate has, the more likely they'll win. And somebody like Lauren Boebert is not just, she doesn't have like name recognition, she's like famous. And whether you're on one side or the other, you know who Lauren Boebert is, right? Well, most people don't even give a fuck about politics at all, and if they vote, they show up, and whichever one they recognize, they pull a lever for. That's just the facts. Right? That's just the truth. If they know about it, they go, "Oh yeah, I know this person," because this is what happens when you go vote. You see all these people that you don't know. You see judges and shit like that. Who the hell knows? Who are these people? Judges, whatever. You see like the Secretary of State or whatever, and it's like, I have no idea who these fucking people are. So usually you just vote depending on what the political party you have or something, right? I mean, very few people, I think, take the time to investigate every single person that's on the ballot. No, they usually just vote down the line. Okay, Democrat, 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 Republican, Republican, Republican. I mean, fuck, I do that. I'm not like, ashamed to say it because, everybody fucking does it. Well, if you know someone's name though, if you've like actually met, this is why canvassing works so well. When politicians go door to door, when they have meet and greets, stuff like that. This is why this works so well, because it gets an impression in someone's head. And they go, oh, yeah, I know that guy. I met him. He's a cool guy. I talked to him about this and that, and other things I'm concerned about. And then when the election comes and you see his name on there, you'll pull the trigger for him, because who's the other person? I have no idea who this other fucking person is. That guy didn't come. I didn't meet him, right? And that's why, so that's the thing. Lauren Boebert has that. People know, she has that name recognition. People know who she is, right? Nobody knows who fucking whatever the guy she was running against was. Adam. Adam, was his name Frisch? I think it's Adam Frisch was his name. Like, who the fuck is that? Nobody even knows, right? And the fact that he, like an unknown, is like within 1,000 votes of fucking taking her out is amazing. It really shows that people are like, okay, why? Why is this guy, how did this guy manage to beat the name recognition, right? It's because people are sick and tired of these fucking MAGA morons who run based on, with zero solutions and run on hate and fear, while the fucking world is falling apart all around them, all they want to do is bitch and moan about like trans girls in bathrooms and like CRT and banning books, right? And stuff like that, like dumbass culture war bullshit that no one cares about, that affects nobody's fucking lives, and taking away people's rights, taking away their right to bodily autonomy and shit like that. People don't like that, and this is I think a big pushback against that. This fact that Lauren Boebert, could have lost. I mean, when she was elected, she won by 6 points, right? Now she's ahead by 0.04 points currently, And if there is a God out there, God, if you're listening, and if you exist, if you want me to believe in you, if Lauren Boebert loses the election, I will then believe in God. I will say, okay, that is a miracle. I prayed, and my prayer came true. That's how, there you go. I will consider Lauren Boebert losing the election. I will consider that evidence of divine intervention. Not saying I've become a Christian or anything, but I definitely would say, okay, a miracle had occurred here. So anyway, that's, so you think about that, because, not all of them have been been called yet. There's still a lot out there, and it could definitely shift, and most likely they will still take at least the House, right? But I do want to show you guys here a comparison to previous elections. So here, let me just move all this stuff over so, I can make sure I'm still streaming and you can still hear me and all that stuff. Make sure we don't have a repeat of last week, right? So I have here, this is just Wikipedia. We're just going to go to Wikipedia real quick. Right, here's the link. And I am going to show you guys some comparisons to historical records of the midterms, right? Just to show you how significant these midterms are today. Let's make things a little bigger so you guys can see it, right? So this goes all the way back to George Washington. We're not going to, of course, not interested in that. We're only going to go back to um, right here to about Ronald Reagan, right? So midterm elections are kind of seen as a referendum on how the president's doing, right? And you can see during Ronald Reagan, 82 and 86, the color here is who controls Congress, right? The House was controlled by Democrats, and they lost 26 seats here in 1982. They lost another 5 in 1986, right? Why is that? Because people liked Ronald Reagan. When people like the president during the midterms, the seats that are like gained or lost in the House or the Senate tend to the reflect the president's party. So people really liked the president. So you can see the Democrats lost heavily in both of the midterms there, right? Same thing with George H. Bush. Bush the elder. People liked George W. Bush, because we had that fucking war and shit. Whenever there's a war, the first Gulf War, whenever there's a war, the president's approval rating goes up. That just always happens. People liked him, and he gained seats in the midterms. Same thing in Bill Clinton. You could see Republicans control the House and the Senate during Bill Clinton, right? First 1994, Bill Clinton got trounced, right? Why? Because his approval rating was low, right? So minus 54 seats. See, that's what usually happens when when the president's approval rating is hanging out at around Biden's approval rating, which is roughly, I think it was like 43%. Let's look. What is Biden's approval rating? Let's look that up real quick. Let's see. Biden approval rating. There it is. How popular is Joe Biden? 41. So this is according to 538. So yeah, you could see it was right around the time of the midterms. It was at 42, and now it's a little bit lower. So that's kind of where where it was before here. We can turn that off, right, for Bill Clinton. So that's what they were expecting to happen. Minus 54. Then you could see the Senate went way into the hands of the Republicans, right? The next one, not so bad. 1998, right? They actually only the Democrats gained 4 here, and the Senate stayed the same. Why was that? Why did he do really good in 1998? It's because it was in the middle of the impeachment because of the Monica Lewinsky scandal, right? And that impeachment backfired, right? Republicans tried to impeach him for getting a blowjob. The people out there said, screw that. Bill Clinton's approval rating went way up, right? And then when the midterms came, people voted Democratic, right? And you could see they still, they actually gained seats here. And then, of course, the Senate stayed the same, right? So it's a reflection of the president. Same thing happened with George W. Bush, right? First midterm was right after 9/11. George W. Bush's approval rating was at like 90% after 9/11. So he gains, right? Second midterm, 2006, the magic wore off, minus 32, right? Right around 2006 was when shit was just starting to hit the fan, which accumulated in the 2008, like, housing meltdown, right? Which, let's not forget, that happened under George W. Bush. That happened during the election in 2008. That George W. Bush presided over that, There was inklings of that happening. The economy was already starting to go down in 2006. People saw that. And by that point, there was like all kinds of fatigue about the wars and all this other shit. At that point they've been going for like 4 years already. There was no progress, and it was a major shit show, right? Barack Obama, you can see Barack Obama's midterms. This, what is it, 2010, right? He had the same approval rating as Biden does now, minus 63. That was the Tea Party red wave there, right? Obama got creamed. They called it, what was it, the shellacking, right? And then next one, 2014, not so bad, but still pretty bad. Still lost some. And this was his approval rating was way higher in 2014. Why? Because that was after the ACA took effect. With other things, people like it when they can go to the doctor. But there were other factors as worked into that as well, right? Still lost pretty bad though. If you look here, the Senate in 2014, so it wasn't a victory by any chance. They still got pretty fucked up. Trump, of course, got annihilated during his one midterm, minus 42. That's almost as bad as Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, right? But managed to pick up seats in the House. And then, of course, Joe Biden here. Now, Joe Biden has the same approval rating that Trump had, roughly. The same approval rating that Barack Obama had. A better approval rating than George W. Bush had in 2006. Remember, Bush left office with like a 22% approval rating. People fucking hated him, right? So, but you can see he didn't do too bad this last time. They were expecting he should have had major losses. It should have been comparable to Trump's 41 or Bush's 32 or, Obama's minus 63 seats. He should have got his ass stomped, right, in this election, and he didn't. You know, why is that? Why did people, vote Democratic when the president is not that popular? Oh, wait a minute. Are you guys still seeing that? Okay. I hope not. Good. Why is that? Why did people vote Democratic when the president is not any more popular than the previous presidents, right? There's reasons for that. You know? Reasons for that, man. And we can see it in the exit polls. So I want to open up this exit poll for you guys here. This is basically, I'll put this down in the chat for you guys as well, right? And let's go back to this. You guys can still hear me talk, right? Okay, good. Now I'm paranoid. Now I'm checking every 5 minutes to make sure that my audio was still going. This is the exit polls from CNN. Okay. And now an exit poll is generally pretty accurate because you're asking people who just voted what they voted for, right? Sometimes people do lie in exit polls. Let's keep that in mind because they're there with their friends, their family. They don't want them to know that they voted for something. For example, if you're from a very conservative area, you're there with your mom or something, and then you might lie and say you voted against abortion when in real life you voted for it. That kind of thing happens. You might lie and say you voted for one guy when you really voted for the other guy because your wife is there or your father's there. You don't want them to hear that you broke the party line, shit like that. Excuse me. Burping. Okay. But generally, exit polls are actually pretty close. And you can see here the reason, we could... fuck off. God damn it. So you can kind of see here how it breaks down, right, by age and demographic. The younger you are, right, the more likely you are to vote for a Democrat, 63%, right? And that just decreases the older you get. And with Republicans, the older you get, the more you vote for Republicans, right? That tracks really well. Well, a couple of things to remember. There are less old people now than there were 4 years ago. Not just because a lot of them age out and die of old age, but, we've had 1.5 million people die of the Rona since the last election, right? Very large number of those people are old people, and not just conservatives, but old people in general vote conservative most of the time. So it's like, well, if you have, 1 million old people die in various conservative red states, stuff like that reduces your number of people that vote. That, along with the normal ordinary number of people who would die of old age or who age out of voting, they're too old, they can't leave the, whatever, something like that, you know. They don't that really, and then there's always people who just don't vote in the next election too. Maybe they felt they got burned the last time and they don't vote, right? So the number of older 65 and older shrinks every year for those reasons. The number of 18 to 29 grows every year because every year people turn 18 and they vote for the first time. And that's just what's going on here, right? So older people are dying off, younger people are growing up, right? And you're going to see as time goes on, this bulge. It'll be a slight bulge because as most people get older, they tend to vote more conservative as well. But over the next, 20 years, 30 years, you're going to see this bulge is going to kind of go up until eventually 65 years and older will be higher. It won't be 63%, but it'll be higher than it is now. Will be Democrats, right? That's just how demographics are going. Seems like Democrats tend to be not married as much as Republicans. That makes sense too. You know why? Because the cost of living is higher in blue states. And when the cost of living is higher, it costs more to be married. And even though you have advantages to being married and having a dual income household, you can have those same advantages without being married, right? So marriage is more of there's economic indicators to marriage. There's also cultural indicators to marriage. A lot of young people don't get married. That's the other thing too. When you're 18 to 24 or 18 to even 44, a lot of people don't get married until later in life nowadays, except when you're in red states, when people get married at the age 16 and shit, because their fucking grandpappy's pointing a shotgun at them. Right? So that's why that skews. Well, people who aren't married who are younger and who aren't married tend to care about other more, I guess you would say, progressive ideals. They care about things like the environment and wages and shit like that. Whereas like old people who are married care more about stuff like fucking, making sure that critical race theory isn't turning their sons gay or some shit. You know what I mean? There's a hedgehog. Robert Rice predicts that the combined numbers of millennial and Gen Z voters will be the largest bloc by 2028. I hope so. That would be awesome news. That would mean that we might actually get some change going here. If they're the biggest voting bloc, then that means that politicians are going to start catering to those people because they want those votes. We might actually see some things like some real like environmental, like legislation get passed. We might see some real job reform type things. We might see something like some form of UBI. I fucking hope so. That'll be awesome. Condition of the nation's economy. This was kind of strange. It seems like Democrats tend to think that the economy is much better than Republicans think. I don't know if that's a function of the fact that we have a Democratic president. I would like to look at how that was 3 years ago in the middle of the Trump presidency before COVID, right? I can tell you the economy is way better than it was in 2020 when we were in the middle of the pandemic. Well, we still are in the pandemic, but when, the shock to the economy because of the pandemic was in high swing. The fact is right now the economy really is not that bad. I mean, yes, we have high gas prices and inflation is way higher, way unacceptably high. At the same time, unemployment is extremely low. Unemployment is low as it was before the pandemic hit. It's all the way back to where it was, right? So, and it was like it's like 3.7%. That's like extremely low, So usually, I mean, all through the Obama years, it was hanging out at like 5%. All throughout the Bush years, which everybody considers Bush having an awesome economy because he had like the dot coms and shit like that. It was at like 5%, 4.5%. So it's like 3.7% is super fucking low, right? So it's kind of like, how do you have a shitty economy when everybody's working? I mean, yeah, okay, shit's expensive. There's supply chain stuff like that. Gas is expensive, stuff like that. But you have a job, right? That means people are surviving. People are working, they're surviving, right? It might not be the best. Wages are up. I mean, that's why inflation is up, is because wages went up. Really, that's it. It seems to me now, am I wrong here, right? Just as a side note, for like literally like 15 years, like since 2008, is that about 14 years ago now, right? They've been doing quantitative easing where they just straight up give banks and corporations money in order to, like, keep them afloat. They've been doing that since 2008, ever since the fucking bank, like, meltdown, right? Housing market and bank meltdown. Quantitative easing, something in the area of, like, we don't even know how much. It's between like 4 to like God only knows how many trillion, minimum $4 trillion in quantitative easing going to different banks and corporations, right? Inflation did not go up significantly all throughout quantitative easing. It didn't, right? Inflation was a steady something like, less than 4% or some shit like that for like the entire time, right? All of the sudden, when we start giving people, a bump in the minimum wage, when we start, like, say, all of a sudden we give like people in California a $15 minimum wage, and some Amazon workers start making like more money, shit like that. As soon as poor people start making more money, inflation goes up. Am I wrong to like notice a connection here? Right? Why is it when we just give, right, $1 trillion tax cut to rich people, inflation doesn't go up? But when we increase the wages for the first time in a generation for normal people, inflation goes through the fucking roof. Why is that? Right? Maybe it's like, I don't know, maybe because we were giving the money to rich people before, and now that we're giving it to the poor people, the rich people are raising prices to get that money. That's what it looks like to me. Maybe I'm oversimplifying. Maybe I'm just straight out wrong. But it kind of seems like inflation is not caused by there being too much money out there. It's caused by there being too much money held by poor people. That's what it looks like to me. Like, poor, ordinary, and like middle class people have money. Prices go up because rich people want to get that cash. That's what it looks like to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm full of shit. Maybe I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Just seems like the evidence points in that direction. Anyway, but there was one thing I really wanted to point out here. I don't want to spend too much time looking at exit polls. One thing that I did see is that the gender seems like female women, tend to be Democrats, right? 53%. That makes sense. Makes sense that women would vote Democrat after the Republicans had taken away their reproductive rights, right? And there was one here that I wanted to talk about, the most important issue to your vote. Where is that? Income. You can see who are the Christians here. Republicans are the evangelical Christians. Let's see. Income, age, education. Where is the most important issue for your vote? It's down here somewhere. Education among white voters. View of Nancy Pelosi. Haha, that's funny. God damn it. Why are there so many fucking questions here? Alright, let's just do a search here. Control F. And we want to look at most important. There we go. Most important issue to your vote. This is what I thought was very telling here. You can kind of see here stuff like crime, 41 to 57. That's roughly half half and half, a little bit more skewing toward Republicans. But look at what is really, really, really like skewed one way or the other. Abortion. Democrats really, 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 really are concerned about abortion. Inflation. Republicans really, really concerned about inflation. Gun policy. Democrats. You can kind of say this is what motivates people, right? Democrats are motivated by bodily autonomy, abortion, and people getting blown away, right, in random fucking school shootings and shit like that. Republicans are concerned about inflation and the dang immigrants coming and stealing your jobs. And you can kind of see how this, it's like you can see, like, well, that's what's reflected in the media, right? Turn on conservative media, all they talk about is inflation, 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 crime, crime, crime. The immigrants are coming to vaccinate your kids. That's what. That's all that. That's you know. Biden's border policy is allowing criminals over. That's all they fucking talk about, right? And this year, the Democrats ran on abortion, and I think rightfully so. And I think this is very much, so that is reflected in not just in, but if you look back at the demographics there, well, what are young people concerned about? What are they concerned about more? You know, are people in the age 18 to 35, do they give a shit about immigration? Not really. No. Right? Because only old, ordinary, honorary fucking racist white people give a fuck about, immigration. Right? No, young people care about, is the government going to force me to have a baby or not? Right? So I thought that was very telling, and I think it's important to take these things into account as to, like, well, why did people vote the way they voted? It's because of a lot of things, where they live, their ages, who they are, and not just, it's not solely on the strength of the candidates or on the issues themselves. It's what the people during their given particular socioeconomic and age class, what they care about, right? So these are important things to remember, and it seems like more and more people are starting to care about stuff that Democrats are catering to. Or rather, put it the other way, the Democrats are catering to what more and more of what the people actually give a fuck about, what the people actually want. They actually want things like, they care about abortion, they care about, sane gun laws, right? They don't care so much about a guy coming over the border in order to find a better life. Right. Anyway, thought that was interesting. Let's see. It also seems that people overall tended to reject the Trump-style Republicans, and I'm not the only person to make that connection, right? But it has seemed, that does seem to be a thing that oh wait, there's layers. There we go. Okay. That does seem to be one of the factors here. If you look around where the high-profile races where it's come in really close, or where the Republicans lost, those Republicans that lost their races tended to be Trump-style Republicans. Trump, make America great again style asshole Republicans that have no solutions and are just in it to basically spread hate and, like, enrich themselves, right? Mehmet Oz, for example. Why is that guy even running to be a senator in the first place? Does he have any ideas about anything? Does he have like a... No, he's there to basically make money. That's why Mehmet Oz wants to be a senator, right? He lost pretty bad. Carrie Lake, who just took everything she had out of the Trump playbook, she got resoundingly rejected. Doug Mastriano was another guy. He ran for the governor of Pennsylvania. Hardcore Trump guy. He lost. Tudor Dixon is another guy that she ran for the governor of Michigan. Lost pretty hard, right? And the ones that tended to win tended to be like anti-Trump, like sort of, traditional I guess, conservative, like corporate style Republicans, like the not crazy Republicans, right? Which, they're still Republicans that are like, they're still socially liberal. I mean, conservative and shit like that. Don't get me wrong, they'll still take away your fucking your rights and shit like that, but they're not like insane about it, right? Those are the ones that tend to win, and that's sort of like a good repudiation against Donald Trump. And the biggest evidence of that, like everybody's saying, is that, well, in Florida, the Republicans cleaned up, right? And it's because of Ron DeSantis, basically. People went, they like Ron DeSantis. Even though Ron DeSantis is kind of like borrowing everything he's got out of the Trump playbook, the general image that he's cultivated is that he's sort of like the sane Trump. That's the idea. That's what John. That's what you know, DeSantis is going with. He's going with, well, I'll give you all of the same social and business like policies that Trump would have, but I'll do it in a responsible way. I won't make a fool of myself every fucking day on Twitter. Right? I won't start fights with celebrities and shit like that. I won't like fucking hang out with like, you know, North Korean dictators and stuff. Right? And break the law every 5 seconds. Like, that's what it is. And so it's that's, I mean, that's good news, I guess, because it means that a little bit of sanity, but I don't want to I don't want to give these guys too much credit, because I personally think Ron DeSantis is like an actor. He's basically, he knows what you know he's crafting an image. He took advantage of the Trump train as much as possible as Donald Trump. He was putting ads out, Ron DeSantis, when he was, during his last election, where he was reading fucking like fake children's books, like to children, saying, and then Trump built the wall, like, and then Trump said, make America great again. He was doing shit like that. So he was definitely like, he's aping Trump's like game, is what he's trying to do. He's trying to get in and like steal Trump's like, you know, steal his fucking I guess, what's the word for that? Right? Steal his act, I guess, is what he's trying to do. And then now he's trying to separate himself from him, saying like, well, I'll do it better. So he's not, I don't want to get anybody, wrong. Ron DeSantis is not better than Trump. He's maybe worse in some ways. And it may be better for the country for Donald Trump to actually run again and lose than to have Ron DeSantis run and then win. So I don't know, but we'll talk about that in 2024 when that shit happens. Right. But it doesn't change the facts. It doesn't change the facts that, in Florida is really the only place in the country where the Republicans had that sweep that they were looking for. They kind of just dominated all over Florida. And we have to tell it like it is. So, let's see here. Am I still hear my audio? Good. Hive Science, what's happening? They have solutions. It's called Christofascism. Yes, it is. Which I would say that's not a solution at all. I would say that's part of the problem. But yeah, that's their. You are correct. That's what they bring to the table. The thing is, we have. Let's read some comments here, and then we'll get on a little. We're about at the halfway mark. Here's the thing, right? The way I see it, we have a lot of several sort of ongoing crises happening in this country, right? The most important, I think, for the history of mankind being the environmental crisis, and it's been like that for years. And every year it's getting worse and worse. We're getting hurricanes every fucking year that are getting bigger, bigger, and bigger. How many? I mean, how many giant hurricanes are going to destroy Florida and fucking Puerto Rico? It's like as soon as one's finished, another storm shows up, makes it even worse, right? That shit, that's just gonna get. It's not gonna get better by itself. It's just gonna get worse and worse and worse. More people are gonna die. More money is gonna get spent. You know, more lives are going to get destroyed over and over and over until we do something about it, right? That's the biggest crisis, I think. But there's still a lot of other little mini crises. The economy's all fucked up. We've got, this looming automation crisis, which you don't really hear a lot about this in the news, but this is going to happen. Within 50 years, it will be impossible for normal, ordinary people who don't have, like, a degree in fucking, like, computer, artificial intelligence and shit to actually get a job. It will be, like, I'm talking about, like, people who don't go to college, like, and when I say that, I also mean older people, who, like, whose skills are no longer, like, super relevant. Younger people trying to get their first jobs, it will be more and more hard because those jobs will be automated. Things like, you know, I mean, you're already seeing it. You go into a grocery store and they're cutting the number of checkers at the grocery store checkers, and they're putting those self-service things in there, right? Well, what's it going to be like when every store has that? Let's say you want to, I mean, you won't even be able to get a job like, delivering food anymore, driving an Uber, because you're going to have self-driving cars, stuff like that. So what happens when you can't even get a job at McDonald's, right? Because, like, where previously there was a staff of 35, and now there's a staff of 12 because everything else is automated, right? How's that going to work for people trying to get their first job? When you're 16, you're trying to get a job. How's it going to work for somebody who's 65, needs to make money? Maybe they have Social Security, but it's not enough. They need to make an extra, $400 to $800 in order to survive, right? How's that going to work? They can't get a job doing that. There's not going to. And you need these. You need jobs for unskilled labor, is what I'm trying to say, right? And then even what happens when that invades the skilled labor part? You have artificial intelligence that could do fucking artwork now, right? How long is it going to be until, like, for example, I used to do um, quality assurance for, let's see, let me step backward. I used to do quality assurance for, like, software testing. I still, actually, my current position still has a little bit of that, but that's not my main job title anymore, But still, I used to do that, right? And the reason why I got out of it is because it's automation now. You have to basically be a programmer in order to do QA, right? Well, I'm not a programmer. I mean, I could try, and it's like I'm too old now at my current. So I just went on and I do something adjacent now, which actually makes me more money. So I'm kind of happy, I'm still in IT, but it's like it's a little bit it's adjacent, right? Well, what happens when all of those jobs, like when artificial intelligence can even do that shit, when you don't need to have a QA guy to sit there and QA your website or your video game or something. You just have a program that just does it for you, right? You think that won't happen? And so your QA department will be 5 people instead of you know instead of 15, or maybe 3 people. You have one QA manager, you have a guy that runs the automation, and then that's it. And how long before you can just, like, say you want to QA a website, you just go to a service that you enter in your URL, and the artificial intelligence goes through and QAs everything in 5 minutes, finds all the broken links, finds all of the finds all of the little doohickeys and stuff like that should do X, Y, and Z, right? And then you can't even get a job doing that anymore. How long before there's artificial intelligence that's actually programming stuff? you know. So whereas if you wanted to, say, make a website or a game or something, in the past you needed a staff of, let's say 12 to 25 programmers depending on the size of your project. How long before now you only need 5, because all they do is set parameters, right? And a fucking robot does the rest of it. That shit's coming. It's coming, and it's coming for skilled labor. That's the thing that people don't get. It's like it'll hit unskilled labor first, and then it'll hit skilled labor. And this might not happen for 50 years, but it'll be there, and it'll be there within the lifetime of some of the people watching this video, depending on how old you are. You know, if you're 22, right, this is going to affect you. right? If you're in your 20s, if you're in your 30s even. And think about, we all like to think we're gonna retire rich and happy, like on a private island and shit surrounded by beautiful women. It's probably not going to happen. You're probably going to retire and still need to work. That's most likely what's going to happen unless you strike it rich somehow. How are you going to get a job when you're 70, right? You may need to. If things don't go your way, you may need to. Even if things do go your way and you do have Social Security and you do have a 401k and you have all of this stuff, and you're well taken care of, you may still need to work depending on, I mean, this is 50 years from now. We don't know what the future's going to be like, right? Maybe it won't be enough. What are you going to do? How are you going to get a job? Right? When everything is fucking automated. When you can't even, like, pick people up from the airport anymore because a self-driving car does that. When you can't even deliver food anymore. When you can't even get a job in a restaurant bussing tables because there's a fucking robot that does that. This shit is coming, right? What are the solutions for this, right? Democrats have solutions. Bernie Sanders has a solution for this, Fucking UBI, that's the solution, you know? If you want to maintain capitalism in a society like that, then the people at the bottom need to have money in order to keep the economy going, right? Well, when people can't get jobs, they got to get money somehow, right? Republicans will never go for a UBI ever. It'll never happen. See, that's the thing. It's like Democrats have these solutions. Republicans don't have these solutions. And maybe they're not the right solutions, but at least they have fucking something. Republicans aren't even talking about this shit. Republicans are talking about fucking trying to, like, I don't know, ban every book that has a black person in it. Right? Those are their solutions to these coming problems. Their solutions are not solutions. Their solutions are fucking, let's, like, blame it on minorities and shit. And, like, as far as I'm concerned, that's just putting a bag over your head and pretending that the asteroid isn't about to hit. Right? So, anyway, kind of went off on a big ass tangent there. Ay, ay, ay. They think Hive Science. They think theocracy will fix everything. If we were all Christians, it would be moonbeams and lollipops. Oh, jeez. Uh, that's the thing. Theocracy, yes, would fix everything for them. That's true. It would be great for them. They would love it if there was a theocracy out there. For the rest of us, not so much. That's kind of what we see in every society that we do have a theocracy. Look at Iran right now. Iran is a fucking theocracy. People are, like, revolting against that shit. It's like, good, about time. I heard that the parliament there, or whatever they call it in Iran, has voted to start um, executing protesters, which is disturbing because there's somewhere around 15,000 people that's been arrested. And I'm thinking that this is like this is a good sign that Iran is on the edge of, like, a revolution. You can't execute 15,000 people without, some serious blowback. And I would not be surprised if, like, an armed revolution starts up there. Because think about that. Think about it in the United States. If they said, okay, we're going to execute 15,000 protesters, fuck no. That would start a revolution. Then there would be people with guns in the streets after that shit. And I don't see any reason why Iran would be any different. So, I don't know. Shit seems to be falling apart there. And I think it's about time because, the Iranian theocracy needs to be fucking destroyed, in my opinion. Right? Seriously, man. Fuck that shit. Anyway, let's get on. It's 12 o'clock. Let's get on with some of our content here. What were we talking about? We were talking about Trump Republicans and how they're all losers. Let's see. So, Kari Lake in Arizona has refused to concede so far, right? And is already kind of starting to lay the groundwork for this idea that she's going to start claiming that the election was stolen. So it doesn't look like to me that she. I mean, the votes are still being counted, but they're at something like 97% counted already, and it's looking to me like she's gonna lose, right? The night of the election, she did a speech where she basically started laying the groundwork where she's going to take out of the Trump playbook and claim that, it was all rigged and the election was stolen, blah, 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 blah. She said on the election night in a speech that there was incompetency in play, saying that basically the election counters were incompetent, right? And tried to sue on election night in order to keep the ballots open in Maricopa County, right? They wanted to keep the ballots open until 10. Then they also wanted everyone who they identified as voting twice to fill out a provisional ballot using a software called e-polling. So there's basically e-polling software is basically it's supposed to determine if you've already voted, to track your vote, stuff like that. Problem with that is that it's very easy to mistake people who had already voted for somebody else. So if you have two people with the name, say, Juan Gonzalez, like a very, very common name, right? And the reason why I'm using a Latino name is because Latinos and black people tend to get targeted with these types of voter purges, right? But basically what the Kerry Lake people were trying to do is saying, hey, these people already voted according to this software we're using in order to track votes. We want them to do a provisional ballot. Well, your provisional ballot basically means your ballot doesn't get counted. If you do a provisional ballot, then it's like, no. You should, if you ever go in to vote and they offer you a provisional ballot, you should insist on a normal, ordinary ballot, because there's a good chance that if it's provisional ballot, then there could be a lawsuit, and then that ballot might get thrown out. And that's so if you, they tried doing that to me once. I went in to vote once in 2008, and they said, oh, well, your name doesn't match. And I'm like, yes, it does. And they go, well, here, you can fill out this provisional ballot. I'm like, no, my name matches. I am registered here. And I made her look again, and she found my name. It's because she was fucking lazy and she didn't want to find my name. She's like, oh, well, I don't see you in here, so I'm going to give you a provisional ballot. I'm like, no, look again. My name is in the fucking book. And sure enough, it was. And it's like, yeah, kiss my ass. I ain't filling out no fucking provisional ballot, right? Because that's what it is. It's it's a trick in order to basically get you to get your ballot thrown out, Um, it's basically what you do when they think that there's a problem, with you just fill out this provisional ballot and then maybe we'll count it. Fuck that shit. No, get a normal ballot. Fill that out, right? Anyway, so that's what they tried to do on election day, and I wasn't able to actually find any info if any of that was successful or not. They seem to be criticizing the election counters now. She went on Twitter and is tweeting a bunch of shit saying that the election counters in Maricopa County and stuff are too slow and it's a disgrace and all this other shit. The reason why it's too slow is because the law in Arizona says that they're not allowed to count the mail-in ballots they're not allowed to start counting until the day of the election. This was actually a law passed by Republicans, right, prior to 2020 as a way of trying to stop mail-in ballots, right? So that's true. That was a thing that pro-Trump Republicans passed in Arizona, right? Because if you can delay the vote of the mail-in ballots, then you can sue to get them thrown out. That was the rationale behind that. right? So now she's criticizing it because she needs those mail-in ballots to win, right? Because some of those ballots they think may come from some conservative areas of, Maricopa County and stuff like that. So it's funny how the law, they don't pay attention to the law. Yeah, that looks okay. Yeah, I need to make that a little more even. It looks a little smeary. But it's funny how, like, the laws that they fucking pass they don't like when they don't, work in their favor and everything. Maricopa County, if you remember, was the same place that in 2020, the cyber ninjas recount. That's where they focused on Maricopa County. It's funny how they seem to be coming back to this same place over and over and over again. I think it's because it's a traditionally conservative area, I think. And that's why they're recounting it over and over, because they're like in denial that it's like not going 100% to conservatives. I think that's what it is. I looked up the racial makeup there, and it doesn't seem to be like, an area of like black people or Latino people, because that was my other suspicion, is that maybe they focus so much on it because there's minorities there and they're trying to throw their votes out. Doesn't look like it. Looks like more like Maricopa County is just one that they don't want to lose, and they think they should win it because it's like 87% white. And I think they may just be in denial of the fact that it's like, oh, well, these people aren't voting the way we think they should vote, that our like pollsters and computers said they vote. But I don't know. That's just my opinion. I could be totally fucking wrong. I am not an expert in Arizona politics by any stretch of the imagination. Anyway, but yeah, one thing she said at a speech is that we know, this is Carrie Lake, we know my opponent and her allies have been sowing doubt and confusion throughout this campaign, and it's unacceptable that they were spreading misinformation today while people were exercising their right to vote. If that isn't fucking projection, I don't know what is. Okay. Election denying Republicans, because that's the thing. Carrie Lake was a 2020 election denier, claiming that Democrats are spreading misinformation about the election. That is the biggest fucking, that's projection up the fucking wazoo right there. Kiss my ass, you fucking fascist bitch. It's like, get the fuck out of my face. I don't know. I don't understand how people can just how you can hear these people say shit like that with their fucking past history. It's like the most hypocritical fucking shit ever. Anyway, Charlie Kirk seems to have a very big hard-on for Carrie Lake. He's stumping for her. He's tweeting like crazy, really putting all of his eggs into this basket, hoping that she wins. And I'm glad that she's still like 40,000 votes behind, because fuck Charlie Kirk. He's an asshole, and he deserves to get knocked down off of his high horse at every opportunity. Someone else who's very much stumping for Carrie Lake is Matt Walsh, and I want to show you a bit of Matt Walsh's video here. This is from his, let's make this smaller so my stream don't get kicked, and let's make that full screen. This is from How the Red Wave Became a Red Ripple, episode 1059, where Matt Walsh basically spends the hour crying like a little baby, filling his diaper over the fact that his guys lost. Well, they didn't. The thing is, they didn't even fucking lose. It's just they didn't like dominate. The fact that they didn't fucking dominate the way they said they would. And this is the segment, Arizona election has more voting hiccups, right? So I thought this was very interesting, and I thought you guys might like to hear some commentary on this.
All right. Well, it wouldn't be an American election in the modern age without hiccups. Voting machine hiccups. You know how they always have those hiccups. And so this is a report from Fox News. It says the campaigns for Republican gubernatorial candidate Carrie Lake, U.S. Senate candidate Blake Masters, and the RNC are suing Maricopa County, Arizona, over issues with voting tabulation machines. The GOP lawsuit. that they should simply stick to talking about taxes and leave it at that, because
Sorry.
it's the state court to instruct the inspector.
So you'll notice this is the exact same tactic, right? The exact same thing that they did in 2020. Okay. They're setting up the groundwork for another stolen election conspiracy, right? The same way they did in 2020, where they did, all of these conspiracy theories popped up over Dominion voting machines and shit like that, and how it's like fucking German spies are using Venezuelan fucking programming and programmers and stuff in order to hack them, that kind of thing. So what actually really happened, right, is that some of the machines broke down because things go wrong when you have thousands of voting machines all going at the same time. At some of them are going to break the same way that ATMs break, the same way that registers at a grocery store break. The machines, shit isn't perfect, especially when it comes to elections, because elections are run by volunteers who sometimes don't know what the hell they're doing. So when shit breaks down, they don't know how to fix it, right? These voting machines are also use proprietary software, so they can't just call a repair guy to come over and fix it. There's security concerns, stuff like that. It has to be somebody from the company that comes and fixes it. So shit goes wrong. So what happens when things go wrong is they give you a paper ballot, and you vote the old-fashioned way, right? And now they're bitching and moaning that, oh, well, these people had to actually fill out a paper ballot like a normal person, right? And they're trying to claim that it was all stolen. And you'll notice that Matt Walsh here is very much playing footsie, right, with conspiracy theories here. So that's what's going on, right? Let's continue on with that.
At every polling location that voters whom the e-poll book have recorded as having previously voted this election must be permitted to complete and cast a provisional.
And that's the thing I just talked about earlier before, right? The lawsuit seeks to keep the polls open until 10 and then instruct every polling location that voters whom the e-poll book have recorded as previously voted in this election must be permitted to complete and cast a provisional ballot, right? Trying to say that people are voting twice, right? Here's the thing about this lawsuit. They know that that's not a thing that's happening. Okay, the number of people who vote twice, I think they found 25 people in 2020, like over the entire fucking country. There's been something like 300 cases of voter fraud since 2000, right? Or sorry, not since 2000, excuse me, since 1982. There's been 300 cases of voter fraud. And you think, well, how many ballots have been cast since 1982, right? Something over, billions upon billions of ballots in all of these elections have been cast. And they've found 300 some odd confirmed cases of voter fraud. It's not a problem. Voter fraud is not a problem. It's not a thing. Voter suppression is a problem. Voter fraud, people going and voting twice, or made up people voting, stuff like that, that's not a thing to be concerned about. The numbers just don't add up. I mean, even if they did, even if they did find 25 people in the last election, that's out of what? Combined 160 million votes, 25, that's not going to fucking push any election anywhere, right? But this is what this lawsuit is there for. It's laying the groundwork so that when they lose, they can claim it was stolen from them. They could say, see, we tried to stop it. We sued and we tried to stop the steal. That's exactly what it fucking is. So, moving on here.
Ballot. So that was the lawsuit. And what this comes from is, as we say, or as the Maricopa County Board of Supervisor, Bill Gates told Fox News, there was a hiccup, and the hiccup led to 20% of the voting machines going down, just like that. The GOP lawsuit said that the issues hit at least 36% of all the voting centers.
Okay. These things happen. What was the hiccup? Was it software related? Was it hardware related? You know, I would like to know what it is, right? Was it, because these things are not connected to the internet, so it was not due to an internet outage, you know? Voting machines are not connected to the internet purposely because they don't want them to be hacked remotely. So, what was the hiccup? Was it a power outage? All of these things could affect voting rights. Is Matt Walsh going to tell us what the hiccup was?
Now, the fact that
Nope.
we always have these kinds of issues.
Nope. He just moved right on. Did not tell us what the hiccup was. Oh, there was a hiccup. What was the hiccup? Does he not know? I mean, Matt Walsh has like a staff of people that go and research shit. Couldn't he find out what it was before he went out? Couldn't he at least called up? I mean, I bet you Matt Walsh right now could call Carrie Lake and ask her. He could probably get her on his show and be like, "Do an interview with me. What are these irregularities about? What happened? What was the hiccup?" He could probably have somebody call, you know, um, call the fucking actual manufacturers of the Dominion voter machines. He could probably go get a statement from them, right? Because he has people that do this shit for him. He didn't do anything like that at all, did he? Nope. No research whatsoever. Didn't try to like confirm anything. Because why? Well, he's not a reporter. He's just a commentator who just pulls shit out of his ass. And why? That's the thing. It's like these guys, when they say this shit, it doesn't have to be true. What Matt Walsh says doesn't have to be true. It's just there to sow doubt. That's his entire shtick right now. He's laying the groundwork to sow doubt in the election, so that the conservatives and the Republicans can claim the shit was stolen. And he's doing it right there. Oh, there were irregularities. Oh, there was a hiccup. Doesn't matter what the hiccup was. Could have been anything, right? Doesn't have to say what the actual hiccup was. And now every time somebody who uses this, whenever you go on Reddit and when you go on forums and when you go on Twitter, all this shit, people are going to say this. They're going to repeat this. Oh, there were hiccups. And they're not going to know what they were either. Because it doesn't fucking matter what the truth is to these people, folks. Right? What matters is their narrative. That's what he's doing. Moving on.
The fact that they are so often in the same places, like Maricopa County, is always a problem. Like at a certain point, it becomes a conspiracy theory to claim that, or to assume that there's no intentionality behind any of it. That becomes the conspiracy theory.
Now, what did he just say there? It's always a problem. Maricopa County is always a problem, right? Maricopa County, like I said before, is where the Cyber Ninjas thing was. There were multiple recounts. Cyber Ninjas was not the only recount in Arizona. There were multiple recounts in Arizona in 2020, right? All of them found that the election was legit, right? Some of those recounts even found more votes for Biden. They spend all this money, they do a recount trying to prove that the election was stolen in Arizona, and turns out that no, Biden got even more votes than we had last time. That's what the actual results were. So why did he just say, right, that it happens every time in Maricopa County? It didn't happen last time. There were no election irregularities in Maricopa County in 2020, right? There were accusations of it that turned out to not be true, right? Multiple recounts found that there were no problems there. So why the fuck did he just say that there was a problem, right? He just lied to everybody right now. Matt Walsh just lied right now to everybody. That was a lie, what he just said, that there are voting irregularities in America. That's a complete, total fucking lie, right? Why did he say it? Because it doesn't have to be true. He's crafting the narrative right now. He's putting the doubt into everybody's head because he knows that Carrie Lake is probably gonna fucking lose. And that's the one thing about narcissists. Is that they can't admit defeat. Whenever something goes bad, it's always somebody else's fault. You ever notice that? Didn't Donald Trump just say that? Donald Trump just said something. There's this clip going around where Donald Trump goes, well, talking about this election. And Donald Trump goes, well, I think if they win, I deserve all the credit, and if they lose, I don't deserve any of the blame. Like that. I'm paraphrasing, but there's like a clip going around of Donald Trump saying that out loud. It's like the most narcissistic crybaby, like fucking little boy emperor bullshit ever, right? That's what they're fucking doing, folks. And this will be, I guarantee it, if Carrie Lake eventually loses, which it's looking like she's going to. I mean, please God, make Carrie Lake lose the election. If she loses, this will be a conspiracy theory that you will see. It will be a full-blown election conspiracy theory, right up there with the Stop the Steal folks. I guarantee it. They're already laying the groundwork here for it.
You have these kinds of issues every single time, burst water pipes, whatever. Like you know it's going to happen, and it does. And it's happened here too. So as I've said many times, you're not going to take but just to deny it wholesale, as Democrats like to do.
Sorry, hit the wrong button.
To claim that, or to assume that there's no intentionality behind any of it. That becomes the conspiracy theory. You have these kinds of issues every single time, burst water pipes, whatever. Like you know it's going to happen, and it does. And it's happened here too.
Sorry, folks. I accidentally clicked elsewhere in the video. It's happened here too. What are the irregularities? What was the issue? Tell us what the issue is. Right? You can't just see that. This is how conspiracy theories start. Right? Is when you just ask the question and then you allow the viewer to fill in the answer. Right? He's not actually straight up saying that it was stolen. He's saying there were issues. Oh, issues happen all the time, especially in this one county. Why? Well, how about you do a little bit of fucking investigation, right? Like, especially if you're somebody like Matt Walsh and you have the money and the ability, right? And the people willing to do it for you that you pay and shit. I mean, if you're such a fucking, like, if you're such a stalwart for democracy, then find out what happened. But he didn't say that. He just said whatever. You know what he actually say? Burst water pipes or whatever. Right? He's alluding to the fact, and then he just straight out said it right there. Like, not even alluding. He just straight out said, like, oh, it's, if you think it's not intentional, that's, it's ridiculous to think it's not intentional. That becomes the conspiracy theory. It's like, this is how this shit forms. This is why people think that, Republicans still think to this day that the election was stolen in 2020 when it wasn't. This is why they think that fucking, like, Sandy Hook was a conspiracy theory when it wasn't. It's the same kind of mentality, the same sort of just leaving, just throwing this out there, folks. Make your own conclusions. Do your own research. How many of these conspiracy assholes do you hear say that to you all the time? Do your own research, folks. Fuck you, no. You're the one with the goddamn TV show, right? You do the fucking research. Tell us what happened, right? Normal, ordinary people can't do the research, okay? What are we gonna do, huh? Go to the fucking library, dig through microfilm and shit? You think your average fucking, like, no. Like, you think the average person watching Matt Walsh is gonna bother to do it? You know what actual research is? It's like going and interviewing people. That's what real research is. Go there, interview people, find the trail of, like, paperwork. If there was actually, let's say, a problem, somebody sabotaged the machines, right? There would be a paper trail of it. They would be somebody who was hired to go do it, right? That means somebody had to pay them. That means that there was a payroll someplace, right? Well, if somebody's getting a paycheck, then there's receipts for that. Did they pay him in cash? Where did the cash come from? Right? Somebody paid for it. Did they not? Did they also need cell phones in order to coordinate these things? then you should be able to find out, where their phone calls made. You should be able to find that out. If trying to steal an election is a big thing, you can't just like walk in and fuck it. No, you have to coordinate things. You need to plan things, right? There'll be emails, there'll be private messages going back and forth, there'll be text messages, stuff like that. How do you think that the January 6th committee has all this fucking information? Because that's the kind of paper trail that gets left behind when there's an actual real conspiracy. You know, you can find it, and when there's an actual real conspiracy, you can find evidence of the conspiracy. Okay, he doesn't have any evidence of this because there's no fucking conspiracy, because the shit didn't happen, because it's bullshit. They're making it up. Right? And if they wanted to, they could find this information. If this information really existed, they could find out, well, which Democratic operatives were in the area. They could go interview people, right? They could find whistleblowers, stuff like that. Because there's always going to be people, even like, who don't want to go along with it, who weren't informed with it, number one. There'll be operatives that didn't know what was happening, and they'll think something was wrong, something was squirrely, something possibly illegal happened, and people want to cover their ass when illegal shit happens, and they'll talk to the cops, they'll talk to you, they'll talk to investigators. Yeah, I saw something. I saw some guys go into this room. They were carrying a huge box full of fucking paper ballots, right? People will say these, that's what would happen if there was an actual crime going on. Yeah, I saw guys going into here with like, hammers and shit. They were going to go smash that machine. That's what happened with Watergate. There were witnesses. People came forward, right? There was evidence. There were phone calls and shit in Watergate. That's what happens when there's an actual real conspiracy. When it's a made-up bullshit conspiracy like this, they just pull it out of their fucking assholes, right? Because it didn't fucking... There's, like, no evidence that the shit really happened, but they leave it open for the viewer to decide. We report, you decide. Oh, is it just a coincidence that it goes wrong every time in this one county that we fucking don't like the voting results in? Get the fuck out of my face. It's the most backwards ass snake oil shit ever. It's the exact same shit that Alex Jones does. This is like Alex Jones builds his entire empire on this fucking like fallacious like conspiracy theory thinking, where like he says just enough to where you can't sue him, but enough to where people draw their own conclusion. It's like, I never said that the Sandy Hook people were actually like cloned robots or whatever. I never actually said that, but I only had like 50 fucking people on my show that said that, and like who fucking alluded to it over and over and over. It's one of the reasons why I'm glad Alex Jones has like fucking lost all his money. Fuck Alex Jones. Guy's a piece of shit. I don't know. I hope Dominion sues Matt Walsh too. For spreading these fucking... I mean, he probably will never say the word Dominion in this because he wants to avoid those lawsuits that are like hitting Fox and OAN and all that stuff. Matt Walsh might be an idiot, but he's not stupid. Put it that way. So, anyway. Moving on. There's only another minute and a half of this segment. Let's watch the rest of it.
So, as I've said many times, like, first of all, is there cheating in an election? Of course there is. I mean, absolutely. That's just a fact. The only question becomes, where is it happening? On what scale?
No, that is not a fact. You can assume that there are shenanigans going on in elections all the time, yes. But you can't say that anybody cheated without evidence. Sorry. If you're going to bring that, you have to actually, like, bring receipts. There's nothing like, if this boy who cried wolf shit, that's not going to fly. No. Do you have proof somebody cheated? Right. Cheating can mean lots of things, too. Right. We have proof, for example, that in, 2016, I think, or 2018, when Stacey Abrams ran against Brian Kemp for the governorship the first time, that there were voter suppression going on. We have absolute proof that happened because that's legal. Voter suppression is legal, Right. The type of things, Brian Kemp was Secretary of State, presiding over, basically he was the person who was responsible for counting the votes and certifying the election, presiding over his own election to governor, right? Where they went and kicked off 50,000 people from like black voting areas from the voter rolls. That's voter suppression, right? This time I don't know so much. She ran again and lost again, and you know what? I don't know. I haven't heard very much in the way of I haven't like read much in the way of stories of any voter suppression this time, but probably happened. But no, that's different than cheating. I mean, it's cheating, yes, but it's not illegal. That's different than like illegal sort of, you know, voter fraud that Matt Walsh is talking about here. That's different than saying that like dead people voted, or that busloads of Chinese immigrants are being driven around the country and voting multiple times like they claimed during 2020. It's different than that. If you're going to claim shit like that, you need to actually show, you need to tell us, where is this happening? You need to show us, can't just be like, oh, there's cheating and just leave it open like that. It's like, no, no. Show your work, please. I don't give credit for people who don't show their work.
Scale did it happen? But just to deny it wholesale, as Democrats like to do, again, that's the conspiracy theory.
Nobody's denying it. They're asking you to put up or shut up. Show me the proof. It's just like if Matt Walsh were to say to me that he saw Bigfoot hanging out with Elvis, flying in a, hovering over the White House in a flying saucer. I would not believe him if he said that. Show me the evidence. Show me the proof. Do you have a photo of this? Did they take you for a trip around in their flying saucer? You went to McDonald's, got a big, got a McRib and shit with Bigfoot and Elvis and the Loch Ness Monster? No? Show me the evidence. That's different than saying, oh, it didn't happen. Right? You can't just claim shit and then have people automatically fucking believe you, Matt Walsh. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. Right? Especially when it comes to stealing an election.
Because now, they don't want to talk about voter fraud. For them, they talk about voter suppression.
Yes.
And in fact, they were doing that last night. There were left-wing pundits on. There was one on MSN.
Yes, he's correct, because voter suppression actually fucking happens. Voter suppression happens because voter suppression is legal. Voter suppression is one side rigging the game so that they can win. Kicking people off voter rolls, right? Doing stuff like getting rid of... You can still hear me? Okay, good. Getting rid of drop-off boxes in certain areas, right? That's voter suppression. These assholes in Arizona that dressed up in tactical gear with fucking, like, firearms and shit and bulletproof vests and hung out in front of, like, voter drop-off boxes, in Arizona, that's voter suppression. And then, a Republican judge says it's okay for them to do it. I don't know, did you guys hear about that story? How these fucking, like, douchebags were, like, hanging out in front, like, basically taking pictures of people when they went to drop their ballots off. And then, so they tried to sue them to stop it because that shit's against the law. And a Trump-appointed judge said, nah, it's fine. They can do it as long as they're 80 feet away. They have to be 80 feet away from the drop-off box. It's perfectly fine to intimidate people, take pictures of them and shit, as long as they're a certain distance away from the box. And then they made it a little longer, because that's bullshit. They said, okay, well, now they have to be 250 feet away. So they just have to be at the entrance of the parking lot. And it's perfectly fucking fine to intimidate people, get video of shit of them like that, as long as you do it over there. Yeah, like that's not going to scare people away, right? That's voter suppression. That shit actually happens, right? Voter fraud does not seem to be a thing that happens very often. Okay? Like I said, 300 some odd examples of voter fraud in fucking 40 years. It's not a problem, right? But you know why the right wing likes voter fraud so much? Because then they can pass laws that restrict voting. That's what they really. This is why they want to make it. They want to make it harder for people to vote. They want to make you have like you have to have an ID, but it has to be specifically the kind of ID that we want you to have. You know, it's got to be a driver's license with a stamp here, there, and there, or it can be an NRA card or something like. But you can't use your student ID for it. You can't use a state ID. It has to be one of these things. Because that's what they want to do. They want to make it super fucking tough. Oh no, drop off boxes at all. Just only in-day voting, and then they get rid of all the fucking voter polling places, so that like there's one polling place for an entire fucking city, and it just happens to be like where all the black people and Latino people live. On the white areas, off where the rich white people live, there's all kinds of polling places on every fucking block. No. But when you go to the urban areas where the people vote Democrat, there's only one. And then they pass laws and shit saying that you're not allowed to get out of line. Or if somebody helps you, if somebody fucking gives you a glass of water while you're waiting in fucking line for fucking 14 hours and shit, you go to jail. That's fucking voter suppression. That shit actually happens. Alright? Fucking Matt, these people are such scumbags. Absolute fucking scumbags, dude. You know what? Fuck Matt Walsh. I'm done with his ass. Okay, he goes on and pontificates a little bit more about fucking, it's just the Democrats stealing everything, complaining, blah blah blah. You can watch it for yourself if you want. Fucking, I'm sick of this fucking asshole. I want to move on. Plus, we're already at 12:41, and Matt Walsh is like a fucking giant piece of shit. There's one thing I wanted to show you guys. I thought this was funny. This is from Brigitte Gabriel. Let's move this over here. And I just downloaded this image myself so I can show it to you guys. Let's turn on my laptop window, make this bigger. I thought this was funny. Brigitte Gabriel is a conservative, Islamophobic author. But you can kind of see, here's a really good reaction of a good conservative meltdown happening. Brigitte Gabriel, a person's brain doesn't fully develop until they are about 25 years old. That's why the vast majority of Generation Z voters are Democrats. Really, really butthurt and pissed that all of the young people voted for Democrats. Brigitte Gabriel. Generation Z thinks doing drugs in the streets should be legal. Generation Z also thinks speech that offends them should be illegal. Someone's feeling sorry for themselves. Brigitte Gabriel raised the voting age to 21. We were promised a red wave and we got a red puddle. Generation Z wants to live off the state and destroy the state at the same time. Why would, if you were a young person, I'm Gen Xer, actually. I'm Generation X. But, Gen Z is someone, 1985 to 2000, I think, is the Gen Z millennial generation, right? Why would you want to vote for conservatives when conservatives hold you in such utter contempt? Is the first question I have. And this is not the first time we've heard this. We've over the last 10 years or so, we've heard all this bad stuff about millennials, about how they're not participating in the economy and how all this other bullshit, how they're not buying diamonds anymore and how they're not buying houses. And if you really think about it, the reason why millennials aren't buying this stuff is because they don't fucking have any money, because wages have been so goddamn low for the last 20 years. That's the real fucking reason. If you want people to buy houses and diamonds and fucking TVs and shit, you need to pay them more, right? But, somehow it's like, oh, the millennials, they just want to spend all their money on their avocado toast and, play Pokemon Go and shit and not participate in the economy. Kind of the same thing that we're seeing here. It's like, oh, like she just said, her last comment there, Generation Z wants to live off the state and destroy the state at the same time. It's like, the fuck are you talking about? Like, where did all this shit come from, And I really think it's an extension that conservatives have always kind of demonized the young generation. And we saw this same thing with my generation too. If you go back to like the late 90s when Generation Xers were just starting to hit 25 or so, 25, 30, there was, I remember hearing this. There was a Rush Limbaugh show because I used to actually work at a Starbucks, and so I'd have to like show up super early in the morning. And the only fucking thing that was on the radio, because I had like a, I'd commute and stuff. The only thing that was on the radio at that time was either like religious radio, like sermons and shit, or conservative talk radio. That's all there fucking was. And so when I wasn't listening to music, because sometimes I just get bored of listening to fucking music, I'd turn on, talk radio, and it would be conservative talk radio. And I remember listening to a Rush Limbaugh show from around 1999 where he called Generation Xers lazy and losers because people were living with their parents until they were 30. Right. That included me. I lived with my mom until I was like 28, because, you know why? Because I didn't have any money, right? I had no money. I worked at, like, I worked retail and shit. And when you work retail or at a restaurant, you're making minimum wage and you don't fucking have any money. Who can afford to move out when you make fucking, at that time it was like $5.25 minimum wage. It was like $5 an hour. Even in like 1999 was fucking nothing. It was jack shit. In fact, I think in 1999 it was even lower. It was like $4.25. Even back then, with the way prices were back then, it was fucking nothing. Like, who could afford to live anywhere? I could barely afford my car and like car insurance at that point, And I remember listening to that, and it was Rush Limbaugh, and he was like, more people are living with their parents until age 30. It's a generation of losers. And even back then, I was like, I remember listening to that, and I was like, fuck you. Like, the thing is, even in 1999, college was super fucking expensive. It's not as expensive as it is today, obviously, but it would cost you back then. I think I worked it all out. For me to go get a 4-year degree would have been somewhere in the area of $38,000 in 1999. I can only imagine, and that was going to like a state school. I can only imagine what it is today. It must be 3 times that amount. I don't even know. I'd have to look it up. I know that these things have the prices for these things like college tuitions and, loans, shit like that have gone up astronomically since then. This is when I was in college in 1999. This is when I was in college. I went to like community college and shit. I couldn't afford to go to normal, ordinary 4-year school. Went to community college. But still, and I just remember thinking this. Like, I remember thinking, like, wow, fuck this asshole. Because, back in the 70s when Rush Limbaugh went to fucking school, it was free, right? It was. Like, it was for, if you went to a state school, in California, at least, it was free. There was no tuition. They only started introducing tuition, like, in the 80s, right? Even if you went, if you went to some place like CSUN or you went to, like, UCLA or something, it was free and you paid for room and board and, like, your books. That was your expenses. You could take, back then in the 70s, you could get a year's pay if you made, let's say you made, I don't know how much you made, 20 grand or something a year. You could buy a house with that. My grandparents' house that they owned cost them $7,000. All right? Like, they bought it in like 1963 and shit, right? But even back then, $7,000 in 1963 was not the equivalent of, $400,000 today. My house that I live in now, that I just bought in this past April, was like, well, I'm not going to tell you how much my house costs, but significantly more than $7,000, I'll tell you. All right, shit costs way more now than it did back then. Like, so when you hear that, it's like, man, and this was 20 years ago. Today it must be like, it's like 10 times more than it was, So this narrative that the young people are lazy, that they're not contributing, that they're losers from the right wing is not a new thing. That's been something for like at least a generation. I mean, I can even think back to the 60s when you hear about, people complaining about like, hippies and stuff like that. It's kind of the same. They were saying the same shit then too. Oh, they're dropping out. They're not getting jobs. They're living off the state, etc., etc. This just seems to be like a narrative that just evolves to envelop whoever the latest like generation of young people are, right? And it's bullshit. It's bullshit, and now it's pissing Brigitte Gabriel off enough to where she wants to take away voting rights. She wants to make voting rights 21. That's fucking bullshit. If anything, they should bring the fucking alcohol age down to 18 is what I think. I mean, if you're gonna make voting 21, then you need to make the draft 21 also, right? You need to make the age of consent 21. You need to make the fucking um, official adult age when you become considered an adult legally. You need to make that 21. If you're gonna do that, if you're gonna move the voting age up to that, then all of that shit has to go with it. Because that just basically, if you're saying if you can't vote till you're 21, then you're saying that you're not a citizen till you're 21, and you're saying that you're not an adult, and you should still be legally a child, right? You should still be legally considered a child and not capable of signing contracts, not like capable of making decisions for yourself, because that's what a child is in this country. When you're a minor, you don't have full citizenship yet. You don't have the full set of rights. Your parents have, basically custody over you. It means they get to make those decisions for you, right? So if you're gonna take away fucking your voting right and make that 21, all that other shit has to go with it. At least that's my opinion, right? So I think we should lower all that stuff to 18 if you ask me. You know, why is it if I'm 18 I can't drink a beer? That's bullshit. But anyway, that's a different discussion. So just wanted to show you this. Brigitte Gabriel is, I thought this was a pretty funny one. A little bit of background on who Brigitte Gabriel is, because she just seems like a rando conservative chud here, right? Well, she is. Let's go back to my notes here. Brigitte Gabriel, for those of you guys out there who don't know, is a conservative of Lebanese descent. She is the founder of a group called Act for America, which is an anti-Muslim group. And they are probably the largest anti-Muslim group in the United States. Did a little bit of research here. They were formed in 2008 or so as a response to 9/11, which, a few years late for that, but whatever. And basically, they spend their time going around spreading hate and fear about Muslims, and also trying to get anti-Muslim legislation passed. Limits on Muslim immigration, laws that are designed to stop things like Sharia law, which has never even been a problem here in the United States at all whatsoever, but they still pass laws against it. Laws trying to stop people from like doing things like wearing hijabs, that kind of thing. They were instrumental in the protests, like when they tried to make a mosque in downtown. The Ground Zero Mosque. Remember that controversy from about 10 years ago? There was this controversy that they were going to build a mosque, and people were pissed because it was too close to the 9/11, Ground Zero 9/11, and all these conservatives came out and said this is sacred ground and we can't let them build a mosque here. That means they conquered it, and all kinds of stupid bullshit like that. They were behind that thing. They would do marches, anti-Muslim marches, stuff like that. And it should come to no surprise that also during the Trump years, they were organizing, rallies for Trump. And, the usual kind of Proud Boy militia, like white nationalist conservatives show up at their marches and shit like that. That's nothing to be, surprised at. She's claimed that any practicing Muslim cannot be a citizen of the United States That is one claim that she made. So if just the fact that you're a Muslim is enough that you can't be a citizen. She's also said that there are tens of thousands of Islamic um, terrorists in the United States acting in sleeper cells. That's something that she's claiming. She has, of course, no evidence at all for this whatsoever. Let's see. We're just going to make kind of a little bit of a background here. Just do a sketch for it. So this will just be like sort of a sketch of the inside of the witch's hut, I think is what we're going to do here. Make a little table. So that's one of her, yeah, she says that there's huge sleeper cells of Muslims all around the country just waiting to spring into action and kill us all. She doesn't say who these sleeper cells are affiliated with. I'm assuming Al Qaeda, maybe, or maybe ISIS, something like that. I don't know. She doesn't actually say. Remember, folks, it doesn't have to be true when it's a conspiracy theory. It just has to sound scary, right? Doesn't have to be any proof to it whatsoever. Um, she's also claimed that they have infiltrated the CIA, the FBI, the Pentagon, the State Department, and they're being radicalized in mosques in our cities and communities. So, big claims there with zero proof whatsoever. Let's see. Let's put a carpet. I don't know, let's put like a little sort of spiral carpet behind her, like that, on the ground. Um, Here's an interesting thing. She's claimed that Europe will no longer be a Christian, no longer be Christian, and it will no longer be Europe by 2050. And she says that it will be majority Muslim, and then they will just vote in Muslim people, and then before you know it, there'll be Sharia law. This is a thing called the Eurabia conspiracy theory. So for any of you guys out there who aren't aware of the Arabia thing, what Arabia basically is, it's kind of like the Aslan conspiracy here in the U.S. But in the United States, when they do this, it has to do with usually Latinos coming over the border, and like the idea is that okay, well they're going to use democracy against us. They're going to come over, they're going to take over the country, and then they're all going to vote in their own people, and then once they get a majority, they're going to do some stupid bullshit like give the you know the Southwest back to Mexico or something fucking really stupid like that. That's one of the Aslan conspiracy theory. Eurabia is the exact same fucking shit except with Muslims and in Europe. That the Muslims are gonna take over and then they're gonna institute Sharia law, and then it'll be Europe will be a Muslim majority country, and then everybody will be forced to wear hijabs and shit like that, right? And it's bullshit, is what it is. Let's see. I'm gonna make some kind of weird magical instrument here that you know doesn't make any sense to us normal, ordinary mortals. Put some bubbles and shit coming out of it. Right. We'll refine all this later. I'm just doing a sketch for it right now, folks. But we'll add details to all this stuff. There we go. This will be like one of those weird silly string, silly straw kind of things. So she's got like sort of a lab going here, you know, with like weird fluted sort of fluted bottles with liquid in them and that kind of thing, bubbles, shit like that. Let's see. So there is, of course, this whole thing is it's kind of a like the Aslan conspiracy, the Eurabia conspiracy. That's sort of an offshoot of the Great Replacement theory, you know, which of course has no rational basis in fucking reality at all. And shit's just not happening, you know. To put that in perspective, the number of radical, like let's say people Islamic militants that are estimated to be in the United States, they thought that maybe there would be around 1,000. But then when the Islamic State, ISIS became a thing, they found only about 100 Americans went to go fight with them. So it's not that big of a problem. It's like, well, there's 100 people who are radicalized enough to actually put their money where their mouth is. Yeah, not a problem. And then that also doesn't mean these people are in sleeper cells ready to take over the fucking like government or any shit like that. There's just really nothing to be afraid of when it comes to any of these things. It's all fucking bullshit, hate, and fear, right? Anyway, but still, kind of shows that the stolen, just going back to our usual programming, it shows that the stolen election conspiracies are already starting. You know, that they're already claiming that it's like the immigrants are coming over and they're gonna vote and steal everything. Please keep in mind that whenever you hear conservatives talk about shit like this and they say the immigrants are coming and they're gonna steal the elections, you can't vote just because you're in the country. If you're let's say like this whole thing with illegal immigrants voting, it's total bullshit. You can't just come over the fucking border and then get like a voter registration card. Like you have to be a citizen first, you know? And it can take years, but even for legal immigrants to come over, it can take literal fucking decades. Like I think it was 22 years the last time I checked is like how long it would take somebody from like Mexico to become a legal citizen in the United States. And then even, the other conspiracy that they say is the anchor babies thing where it's like, oh, we're just going to come over and we're going to have kids and then they're going to become citizens and then they'll fucking steal the election. And it's like, well, yeah, then maybe they'll vote Democratic when they turn 18, fucking 18 years from now. So are you trying to steal the 2040 elections? Like, like the fuck are you talking about? Like it doesn't make any sense. Like any of this shit makes zero sense when you actually sit down and think about it for 5 seconds. It's all bullshit, folks. It's all bullshit fear mongering, and it's you know butthurt Republicans living in fucking conservative la la land who don't want to adjust their fucking hateful strategies away from bigots, spreading bigotry and fear and actually giving people what they want. The thing is, folks, we need two political parties, right? I talk a lot of shit about conservatives and Republicans here. I don't want there to just be everything run by Democrats. I don't want that to be a thing. There needs to be opposition. There needs to be two political parties or more, preferably three, four, five political parties, and there needs to be a proliferation of ideas out there so that you know we can find the best leaders, right? And it's just one political party is hell bent on destroying the country and removing democracy, and it's like that's why I'm standing against these people. If they showed up with some actual ideas, maybe I'd vote for them once in a while. If they got rid of the hatred and bigotry, you know, and the anti-trans and the anti-immigrant stuff, and like stop trying to fucking like pull all this bullshit and all this stupid groomer shit. If they got rid of all of that shit and just like give me some fucking tax policy, okay? Let me hear some of that. Like get rid of the fucking like bigotry and hate and fear. And what do Republicans always talk about? Oh, we spend too much. Okay, well, I'm open to that message. Yes, because deficits and shit and like, the national debt, that's a problem. Well, talk about that stuff. You know, get rid of fucking Lauren Boebert and Ted Cruz and Louis Gohmert and people like, stop putting people like Carrie Lake up there. Stop stop trying to take away people's voting rights and stop trying to take away their fucking bodily autonomy, stuff like that. I mean, I'm open to hearing other ideas. It's just they don't have ideas. That's the problem. There is no fucking ideas from the Republicans. Their idea is to turn the country into a fascist fucking dictatorship. That's their fucking ideas. That's what they want to do. And I got to fight against that shit. So it's like, But that's bad. It's bad to have, we need to have to have a healthy fucking society. We need to have opposing political ideologies. Right? That's what we need. We don't have that right now. We have one that is like, sort of corporate run Democrats who like maybe give us a smidgen of what we need every now and then. And then we have the other party, which is fucking like dominated by fascists, by fascism. And the next time they fucking win the election, they're gonna like remove, they'll take away voting completely. That's what we have in this country, and this is why America's fucking screwed. So I don't know. Get out there and vote for the people you believe in, and please let those people not be fascists. I guess is what I got to say. Anyway, guys, we got any more comments here? Tells Gun, conservative talking points is almost always in the form of taking two leftist ideas, reduce them to an unfair degree, and then frame them as a contradictory. Yeah, I mean that's a rhetorical device. Rhetorical device that you can do that with anything. Basically, you can take any two ideas and the reduction ad absurdum, I think is what that is. It's like a way of arguing that sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't, but it's just mainly like what they just try to blame everything on Democrats, even shit that has nothing to do with Democrats. They try to blame it on them, and it's just fucking like it doesn't work. It doesn't work. First off, half the time it's shit that they like implemented themselves, you know. And yeah, but you are right. You're correct that all it really takes is literally just 10 minutes of actually like not even 10 minutes, 10 seconds of just fucking actually thinking about what these people say in order to like debunk it most of the time. I agree with that. Anyway, I got to get out of here, folks. Thank you all for watching. You can see I'm starting to put a background here. So I think we're pretty much done with our witch, but I want to put like a laboratory behind her. So this will be like a skeleton dragon thing up here. And then I don't know, over here maybe I'll put some kind of monster. Maybe like a stuffed alligator or something like that. So it'll be like the inside of, oh, I know, maybe a bookshelf. Bookshelf with a bunch of evil looking books. Like the Necronomicon and shit. So this will be like a whole little scene of a witch's house or whatever, That way we can stretch it out over a couple more streams. But I think the main character turned out pretty good. I mean, I'm actually kind of proud of that. And that doesn't look half bad if you ask me. Anyway, guys, need to go ahead and end everything here. But before I do that, if you guys like what I do and, you want to help me out, you can go start by checking all of my social medias and stuff. I will put it all down in the descriptions, my links to my website and to my Patreon and all of those other things. I do have a SD shop. Got to pimp my SD shop. Please check me out there. Here's my SD shop. Let me just bring that over here. If you like what I do and you want to give me money, you can buy a print or something. I've got, these are like Lovecraft prints and stuff that I do. These are 11 by 17 coffee stained scrolls. Each one comes out a little different. And I have other things. I have comics on here and stuff like that. So if you guys like what I do and you want to help me out, it would really help to buy something because, I am currently not monetized. I used to be monetized and then YouTube took it away when they purged all the fucking small creators, which is bullshit. I have a gallery here. This is my DeviantArt gallery. All of the artwork that we do on the channel ends up here. Here's one that I just did on my spare time of a birdbarian. I did this on my spare time. It's a, bird-headed barbarian. Trying to up my game a little bit by making little scenes of these things, not just having like blank backgrounds, trying to kind of like advance my skill a little here. But anyway, that's DeviantArt. Please check me out there. This is my webcomic. I will be working on it some more. I have some pages that I need to start coloring. But it's it has ninjas, it has talking ducks, it has people getting punched in the face, and stuff like that. So please check me out at hawanja.com. And I have another YouTube channel. This is my UCD videos channel. I talk about toys and video games. Been doing a lot of toy unboxings over the last couple months, but I do have other videos with games and live streams and shit like that. So please check me out there. Anyway, guys, you guys are the greatest. Telsgun, thank you for joining. Hive Science, great to see you as always. I love your channel. Lewis the Hedgehog, great to see you as well. And if everything goes good, I might stream on Wednesday. Probably not, but maybe I will. I'm also looking into starting a Discord. Somebody actually asked me, one of the commenters asked me to create a Discord. If I were to create a Discord, would you guys be down to join it? That's the only thing I'm afraid of, is that if I start a Discord, there won't be anybody in it. Right? So, would you guys join my Discord if I created one? Please let me know. Anyway, guys, I gotta go ahead and end this. Everybody have a great day. Adios.